Hello everyone, this is Bringonthechaos Glizzy for another What If. What if Naruto is in the Fate series and had a harem? Yes, probably. The girls in Fate 2, maybe a little sprinkles of the girls on the original series as well. And Naruto. Before we start, can you like and subscribe for more What If? If you wanted to request a new series, and if you wanted this fanfic to a full series, please comment 3 hearts and say the fanfic that you wanted.
3. Welcome to Konoha. Naruto charged at Saber with his wooden sword positioned beside him and was parallel to the ground. As soon as Naruto was within striking range, he screeched to a halt, bent his knees, and jumped up and conducted several front flips before making his sword make contact with sword. Saber angled her sword with the point directed to the ground. When Naruto hit the sword, his balance was thrown off and he went sliding and rolling across the ground. What was that? Naruto asked Saber. That, Master, is a parry. A parry is when you misdirect an oncoming attack to counter. Just with that parry alone, you would have died 90 different ways. Saber's answer terrified Naruto. In a battle of swords, it only takes one mistake to die. The faster and more skilled a warrior is able to fix his or her mistake, the better the chance of coming out of the clash with only a scratch. Naruto gulped. He remembered Zabuza, a missing nin, a mercenary for hire with a sword as big as he was. The man was once renowned for his swordsmanship, and Naruto now knew the outcome of what could have happened if he made a mistake during the fight he had against him. One mistake? Well, it's a good thing I won't be making any. Naruto declared confidently. Saber narrowed her eyes before closing them. She smiled a bit. Confidence was nice and all, but to back up that confidence, skill is required. You already made a mistake with that first strike, Saber commented. Her master chuckled embarrassingly, but you didn't know about the consequences of mistakes in a duel of swords, so, quite the declaration, Master. Can you support your claim? Saber asked as she took her stance once more. The master grinned and stood up, his energy showing as he jumped off the ground just to stand. He took his battle stance as well, similar to Saber's. Ready, Saber. Don't keep me waiting, Master. In a burst of speed, Naruto closed the gap. The blonde master gripped his sword tightly and swung upwards. Saber saw the attack and parried it to her left. After doing that, she stabbed the point of the sword right at where Naruto's sternum should be. Dead, Saber declared. You've already made a mistake, Master. Naruto frowned before stepping back several meters and went into position again. Naruto, showing yet another display of speed, went in a zigzag path. He was trying to confuse Saber. The blonde servant waited to counter rather than to intercept her master. At the last juke, Naruto aimed to stab at Saber's right shoulder. The sword master parried once again, forcing Naruto's blade to the ground. She moved her sword towards Naruto's unguarded neck and stopped there, dead. Naruto jumped back, returning to his position. She always parries, I need to make her block. With the tiny idea sparked in his head, Naruto charged forward. He sprinted as fast as he could and aimed for an aerial, downward stroke. Saber anticipated the telegraphed move and blocked it. With Naruto's weight on his blade, Saber threw her master over her shoulder. Now. Naruto, seeing a chance to strike, swung his blade at Saber's unguarded back. As soon as he thought he might land a hit, the intense swing of Saber's sword sends Naruto's sword careening into the ground. Naruto was in a state of shock. How'd she know he would aim for her back? There was no time to think. Naruto needed to act. He pulled back his sword and landed just outside striking range. Naruto twirled his body clockwise, bringing his sword arm up into an overhead, vertical slash that had his weight added to give extra power. His servant finally blocked by making her sword parallel to the ground. There were no signs of misdirection. Naruto can strike again. Aim for the legs. Naruto thought to himself. He pulled back his sword and went for a diagonal slash. Saber stabbed her sword into the ground and lifted it up immediately as soon as Naruto's sword hit hers. With both swords poised over each sword's men, both brought their swords down into a clash. Both blondes reared their swords to return into striking position and were about to repeat the clash. Jump back, then strike. Naruto feinted, resulting in a defenseless Saber. He sprinted towards Saber with his sword positioned at his side to take her head. Saber smiled. Her master baited her into a defenseless attack, and he was reaping the benefits as best as he could. Too bad he won't get close to hitting her. Saber lifted her sword, parrying the oncoming blade. She noticed the look of shock on her master's face, and she was amused by it. She brought her sword down on Naruto's left collarbone and poof! Naruto turned into a cloud. What? Saber asked, her shock registering in time to meet the wooden blade in front of her. The sword came from behind the cloud, so is Naruto behind there too. She slid her sword on the surface of her master's sword and reached his abdomen. Poof! Again. Naruto turns into a cloud that hinders Saber's vision. She hears footsteps to her left and slashes. Poof! To the right, she slashes. Poof! The ground cracks, and she jumps back to barely dodge the edge of Naruto's sword. Saber tightened her grip on her sword. She knew a new type of lesson to teach her master, honor between swordsmen. She now took the offensive as she swung her sword down onto her master. Naruto noticed Saber's charge and blocked it. He couldn't react fast enough when she pulled her sword back to go for his legs, then abdomen, dead. She aimed to Naruto's right shoulder, dead, stabbed at his stomach, dead. She went for his neck, dead, and a direct hit to the head, right in the middle, dead. Her master fell backwards, unconscious from the final blow. She poked her master, trying to check if he's faking it. I think I went too far, Saber said to herself. You think? The other servants asked incredulously. Hours later, the sun peeked over the horizon. It was time for the Hokage to work. The woman, blonde and looked to be in her 30s with a blue diamond on her forehead, is Tsunade. She is a buxom woman with desirable qualities men would drool over, yet her true age is in her 50s. She wears a white robe and a green jacket over it. She also wears a pair of dark blue pants and black heels. She placed an illusion to make herself look young, but even so, her combat abilities wavered slightly below her prime. She can turn shinobi to mush, mind you, but it would take a bit of effort in her part to turn the poor victim into mush. Tsunade groaned. As she entered her office, she already saw the terror that was the meter-tall stack of paperwork. However, this meter-tall stack was not alone. Oh no, folks, there was not one, not two, not four, but 6-meter-tall stacks of paperwork in her office. How'd it come to this? Procrastination, and because she was getting drunk. She sighed deeply, and looked over the stacks. They were already organized by topic: economy, shinobi, contracts, trade, complaints and miscellany, and Naruto. Yes, Naruto is sometimes so problematic that he gets his own stack of papers. Tsunade looked over the stack. Judging by the first page of a 75-page essay of why Naruto should be executed for his incompetence and usage of Kyuubi's chakra, Tsunade wanted to burn it. Wait, why think this over? Tsunade took Naruto's stack and used a fireball jutsu to burn the stack. With that problem done, she looked at the remains of what should be the ashes of the pile. When the smoke and cinder dissipate, she was terrified to see the intact stack of papers. She panicked and sent another fireball at it. It didn't burn. She did it again, but it was futile. What's going on? Why won't this stack burn? Tsunade hurried to her desk to see if a message was left on it. I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama, but you've left me no choice. I've asked Jiraiya-sama for help and placed every stack of paperwork with fire-retardant seals so you can't burn it. You can't shred it either, so don't even think about it. You can't even drown it. You can't run away, Tsunade-sama. Fulfill your duties. Tsunade slammed on her desk. Damn you, Shizune. The door opened. Tsunade-sama. It was Shizune, Tsunade's apprentice. She has short, dark brown hair swept downwards and wears a dark purple robe and black heels. Shizune. Tsunade roared, you're going to pay for your insolence. No time for that. Shizune yelled at her master, Naruto's gone missing. What? Send out the Anbu and any available shinobi. We need to find Naruto immediately, Tsunade ordered with haste. She worried for Naruto. If he's gone missing, then either he woke up and moved, or he was kidnapped. Hi, Tsunade-sama. Shizune saluted before leaving to aid in the search. Kakashi and Sakura didn't need to look too hard to find Naruto. Sakura had guessed Naruto might have gone to Team 7's training ground to train his bottom off to get Sasuke back. When they did arrive, they saw Naruto holding a wooden sword and fighting a blonde swordswoman in a white kimono and black hakama pants. Dead. The woman yelled. She pulled her sword away, and Naruto charged at the woman full force. Again. He yelled as he charged. The woman parried upwards and sent the butt of her sword into Naruto's gut. The shinobi keeled over and kneeled over. Not a second later did he feel a strong gust of wind hit his left cheek. He glanced over to see the wooden blade at his cheek. Dead, she declared. Naruto quickly stood up, again. He clashed against the woman. Sword meeting sword, Naruto seemed desperate to land a hit on a woman. Naruto swung his sword horizontally, and Saber ducked. Naruto noticed he cut her a Hokage, the stray strand on Saber's scalp. Immediately, Archer cringed. The man had experienced the hell Naruto would face, and there was no time to save him. Saber's white kimono turned black, her skin turned pale, and her stare became a glare. This is Saber Ulta. Dead. Saber declared as she slammed the sword to Naruto's gut and launched him up into a tree. Naruto screamed and yelped in pain as he fell from branch to branch until he gave a quick, oof, when he landed on the ground. Sakura ran to Naruto's side, worried for his safety. She looked at his injuries. He already sported multiple bruises and cuts on his body. She suspected it's because of the woman. She turned to the swordswoman and yelled, "Who are you and why are you hurting Naruto?" Kakashi stood next to Sakura, ready to strike if the need arises. He looked her over. Did her kimono turn white again? Ah, darn it, Saber-sensei, you hit too hard, Naruto groaned as he tried to sit properly. Sakura-chan, don't worry, she's a teacher. Sakura turned to her teammate, a teacher. What's she teaching you? The multiple ways your ass can be beaten. The blonde shinobi chuckled in pain. Very funny, Sakura. She's teaching me how to wield a sword. When you just woke up. You needed to recover and look at you beating yourself up. Mom. May I know your name? Kakashi asked as he ignored his bickering students. The woman bowed to Kakashi. I am Saber, Shinobi-san. Saber, like a sword? Kakashi asked with a bit of wonder in his voice. Yes. My name is Kakashi Hatake and the girl is my student, Sakura Haruno. Nice to meet you, Saber-san. I'd like for you to come to the Hokage's office, if you don't mind. I think she'd like to have a nice chat with you. Of course, Kakashi-san. It's a pleasure to meet you and your student. When Kakashi, Sakura, a badly beaten Naruto, and a triumphant Saber walked into Tsunade's office, they saw the woman furiously going through paper after paper to get the work over with. She didn't have any time for this stupid paperwork. Hokage-sama, we found Naruto. Kakashi said to the Hokage as he, Sakura, Naruto and Saber entered the room. The woman stopped going through her papers and shoved them aside to slam on her desk. Naruto stiffened to brace for the scolding and reprimanding he'd get. Tsunade sighed deeply before yelled at Naruto, you stupid kid. You were in a coma for a month and the first thing you do is just go somewhere. What was so important that you needed to leave your bed to look so bruised? Naruto recoiled from Tsunade's yell while Saber didn't flinch at the volume. So, two things, Naruto really was unconscious for a while, and Tsunade was royally pissed off. He wondered how Tsunade would take the news of him having 9 warriors of the past staying in his head. I wanted to train. Naruto answered. Tsunade sighed. It was difficult handling Naruto sometimes really, I wanted to get stronger so I can get Sasuke back. Tsunade sighed again and inspected the stranger. And you are? She asked Saber. Saber, Hokage-sama, answered Saber with a bow to accommodate the greeting, I'm teaching Naruto how to wield a sword, or at least how to fight without getting hit. Obviously, he failed miserably. Naruto looked down to his bruises being healed by Kyuubi, though he failed, he has heart. And he was relentless in trying to get a hit on me. He has the heart of a lion, Hokage-sama. Tsunade smiled at the compliment aimed at her godson. Naruto was elated as well. So you had fun, I'm guessing, Naruto. Of course. Naruto answered excitedly, even though I got beaten to a pulp, I want to do that again. I plan on surpassing her to get to that hat of yours, Bar-chan. The Hokage smiled as she flared her chakra. Jiraiya, come in here. Tsunade ordered. In a puff of smoke, out came a spiky, white, long-haired man with a headband with kanji of oil etched on it. He wore a red, loose vest and dark green, long-sleeved short kimono and pants. Underneath is a mesh shirt for protection, and on his back is a large scroll. This is Jiraiya, the Toad Sage. You called, Haim. Seal the place up. Tsunade ordered. Right away. Jiraiya complied. Tsunade leaned onto her desk, elbows resting on it, and her hand intertwined together in front of her mouth, so Saber-san. Tell me who you really are. It's strange for Naruto to find a master that quickly in such a small time frame. Naruto stepped forward. Bar-chan, if you want to know about her, then you'll need to know about the others. Tsunade's interest peaked as her hands placed themselves on the desk. Others. Everyone, come out. Naruto summoned his servants to the real world. 8 golden pillars of light appeared to show Naruto's servants kneeling. They stood up once the light faded. Bar-chan, these people and Saber are my servants. I'm their master. The shinobi blinked rapidly, trying to comprehend what he said, and not surprisingly, they asked, what? In tandem. The blonde Jinchuriki cheekily smiled at the other shinobi's confusion. After the meet and greet and the backstory for what happened inside Naruto's head, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Sakura were left gobsmacked and their mouths agape for far too long. So the QB gave you full mastery if you master your servants? Tsunade asked, still shocked by the news. Jiraiya merely ogled at the female servants with a perverted stare, his gaze gravitating to the women's assets. Tsunade tightened her fists, but restrained herself from hitting the perverted man. She needed to be professional in front of the strangers. Yup. I wouldn't mind mastering one of those servants of yours, kid. Jiraiya let out a perverted chuckle. Immediately, Ryder shot the floor, making Jiraiya dance. Alta kicked him upside the head. Ruler slammed the flat of her blade to the side of his head, and Assassin twisted his neck. He turned and fell on Tsunade's boobs. Tsunade picked him up and punched him away. Sadly, Lancer was in the line of fire. He was swept away by Mach 1 bullet Jiraiya and landed to the other side of the village. Ah, Lancer died, Archer monotonously cried out. You aren't human. The servants and Naruto roared at Tsunade. They're fine. Tsunade dismissed the accusation with a wave of her hand. As for this conversation, this is strictly between us. No one will know about Naruto's servants except us. Saber is only allowed to be seen because she is Naruto's current teacher. Understand? Yes, Bar-chan. Yes, Hokage-sama. Replied the servants. Welcome to Konoha. Omake, Alta is hungry. It was nighttime. Naruto was forced to recuperate after the merciless beating Saber gave. So now, every servant was back in Naruto's mindscape, minding his or her own business, while Archer was fidgeting as much as Berserker, whose fidgeting became more intense upon seeing Saber's alter form. Archer. Said man stiffened, come with me for a moment. Why? Archer cautiously asked. I'm hungry. Oh, well okay, let's get you something to eat then. Something stirred within Saber when Alta was released after a long time. A desire sparked in her that needed to be drenched. She yanked Archer away from the other servants and went to the more private sectors of the mindscape. Whoa, whoa. Saber. What are you doing? Be quiet, Archer. Alta. Stop. Stop pulling my pants. Archer's yells and shrieks of terror echoed across the sewage walls. Lancer looked terrified and Berserker stiffened at hearing the title, Alta. He too had seen his fair share of nightmares upon discovering Alta. Chapter 4, The Weight of a Sword. It's noon and had been 2 days since Naruto woke up from his month-long coma. The boy professionally hid himself from the public and his friends as he trained with Saber continuously in Team 7's training ground. Apparently, Kakashi and Saber saw improvement skyrocket as he found ways to get around a parry and trained his muscles to be faster to make faster strikes. In the Hokage mansion, the largest building of the village, Tsunade was sitting still in her seat as she just heard the news about the Akatsuki, an organization that wanted the Biju inside Jinchurikis, from Jiraiya yesterday. In other, simpler words, Naruto is in danger. As the way things are, Naruto staying here will only hinder his progress. Villagers are calling for his head. They are accusing the boy of being the reason Sasuke left, the reason the Uchiha died, which wasn't that far off, and that he should die for accessing the Kyuubi's chakra. The fear of Kyuubi corrupting Naruto was a tale already spread around since the boy's birth, but the actual use of the Bijuu's chakra set the villagers off into rage and panic. How did the villagers even know of the boy's use of Kyuubi's chakra? The Hokage had only one possible answer: the civilian council. Mission debriefings, while a shinobi matters at heart, they are also recited to the council, both the civilian and shinobi sides. Kakashi, despite being seemingly lazy, was detail-oriented when it came to mission debriefings. When Tsunade heard the part where Kakashi felt the Kyuubi's chakra being used, she saw the predatory glares and vicious sneers the civilian council had. Tsunade only suspected that it was through the civilian council's treasonous action that the villagers know about Naruto's use of the Bijuu's chakra. Naruto needed to be out of the village fast. It would only be a matter of time until the villagers find out the boy is now conscious and would riot for his head. She had only one option: Jiraiya. She yelled. The wandering Sannin entered her office via window and looked at the Hokage. "Hey, Haim. What do you need?" "Take him on a training trip," Tsunade ordered rather than answered. "When?" the Toad Sage queried. "By noontime tomorrow." "So soon?" "Tsunade, he just woke up. He should have some time for his friends," Jiraiya persuaded. "He needs to stay here for a bit. He may show that he's happy, but inside he's hurting. He thinks it's his fault Sasuke left." And so do the villagers and the civilian council. Tsunade snapped back at her teammate with venom in her tone by the mere mention of the corrupt civilian council. Jiraiya sighed, reluctantly agreeing to Tsunade's order. She won't change her mind anytime soon. Shouldn't he be here to hear this? Jiraiya asked his teammate while scratching the back of his head. "He'll know about it from you," Tsunade answered, totally avoiding responsibility. "Besides, you're his master, you have the responsibility of telling him." Meanwhile, at Team 7's training ground, Naruto maneuvered out of harm's way as he ducked under Saber's horizontal slash aimed at his side. Saber pointed her sword at the rising trainee and thrusts the wooden blade. Naruto twists his body just enough to marginally dodge the sword. The whiskered blonde grinned. He made Saber defenseless and open for a counterattack. Swinging his sword as fast as he could, Naruto saw Saber not attempting to dodge. Saber waited, and while Naruto's swing looked incredibly fast for a trainee, it was still too slow for Saber. At the last moment, Saber turned and tilted her head to the right and lowered her body while it also turned to the right. She was utilizing the momentum of her turning to swing her sword as powerful as she could muster along with her arm strength. Naruto, during the 2-3 days of training, had adjusted to his swordmaster's speed, and while he could clearly see the blade going for his gut once again, he couldn't react fast enough. Saber completed the rotation. Her head was by Naruto's side and her sword reaching her master's gut. With a step, she anchored herself. The sword met her master's flesh, and with her right foot anchoring her, she used her momentum and arm strength to spin Naruto an ungodly amount of times as he flew forward and rolled away once he hit the ground. "Dead," Saber stated calmly. She ignored her master's moans and complaints of pain. Kakashi looked at the scene and chuckled slightly. Sakura on the other hand recoiled and hypothesized how painful that blow could have been. All the while, Tenten, Ino, and Hinata were spying from the trees surrounding the open area. The three girls had heard from the Hokage that Naruto had woken up. They were also told that he already started training in Team 7's training ground. What the Hokage didn't say was that Naruto had taken an interest in swordplay, nor did she say that Naruto also has a strict, powerful, and flawlessly skilled master of swordplay. Naruto, still groaning, stood up with a bit of difficulty. Saber-sensei, can we take a break? I'm hungry. Of course, Naruto. Saber answered. After that conversation with Tsunade, Naruto had figured that Saber should get comfortable speaking her master's name, or people would look at her strangely. Thankfully, she obeyed and fulfilled the order as soon as Naruto said that, "Where would you like to eat?" The young master's gleaming smile told everything in Kakashi's and Sakura's eyes. It was even painfully obvious to the hiding trio in the trees. Naruto had an insatiable craving for Ichiraku ramen. "How about you guys?" Naruto asked Kakashi and Sakura. "Sure," answered the other two members of Team 7. Naruto turned to the trees, where the Konoiki trio were hiding. "How about you, girls? You coming?" Naruto asked them with a smile on his face. "I think I have enough to feed everyone here a bowl, how about it?" The hiding girls were certainly shocked to be spotted. Naruto never showed such aptitude in paying attention to his surroundings. Heck, he didn't even pay mind to using weapons other than shuriken or kunai in a fight. Who the heck is this new Naruto? Tenten was surely interested, while Ino didn't know what to think about the improved shinobi. Hinata on the other hand still had a crush on the blonde shinobi. The girls jumped off the perch and landed in front of the remnant of Team 7 and the Swordmaster. Tenten spoke first. "Sure, I'll take that offer," she smiled as she agreed to the treat. The weapons mistress poised her hands just above her waist, where her hips were starting to show the curvature of her body. Ino patted her stomach. "I do need some food inside me." "You got yourself a deal, Naruto." Hinata lowered her hair and played with the indexes of her fingers. "I'll go, Naruto-kun." Her voice, low and meek, showed her unnaturally high level of shyness expressed by any single individual. "Hey, so what are we waiting for? Let's go." The blonde boy cheered loudly before sprinting off into the general area of Ichiraku ramen stand. The remaining shinobi and Konoikas gave a synchronized, collective sigh. Naruto, even though he has improved at least a tiny bit, still acts so juvenile when it came to his favorite food in the world. Inside Naruto's mindscape, the resident sword wielders were conversing with each other. They were trying to figure out Naruto's strengths and his weaknesses while wielding a sword. "He's quick," Archer commented, "slow reaction time, though." Berserker and Ruler nodded in agreement. Despite not learning the way of the blade, their master is only subpar to a normal knight's swing speed. "Technique is also lacking," Ruler stated, "though I have no doubt Saber can teach our master properly. The king of knights should be able to handle our budding master." "Bud, ding. Master?" Berserker asked believingly. "Master is growing. Claws." The Black Knight cheered loudly. "Berserker, if thou can't give substantial criticism or advise, I suggest thou to keep thy unruly mouth shut for the rest of this conversation. Master is quite spry with his unconventional attacks." Assassin praised. Berserker agreed, nodding at her statement. "Master, shush. Those, exceptional use of tactics. No one would be able to guess. Berserker finally contributed to the conversation, and Ruler had to agree. Their master's mind would try to get his body to move to the tactic he would conjure up. While there were plans that almost seemed flawless, they were better than the average knight would be able to think of in the middle of battle. Why is Saber teaching Master the unconventional way? Shouldn't she be teaching Master proper techniques and stances? Why hath she foregone fundamentals? I'd thought a crash course into swordplay was something she was beyond her ability to teach. Archer thought about Ruler's questions deeply. True, Saber would be the type to prioritize fundamentals over sparring any day. Maybe, Archer started, maybe she's testing him. You've seen Master's swings and movement. They look rough around the edges, but to him, it seemed natural. He moved like water when he would dodge some of Saber's hits. Archer turned to the chakra beast inside the cage next to the conversing trio. Kyubi-san, do you have any idea why Master moves so proficiently despite learning for only 3 days? No, Kyubi answered, I have no idea how he has improved so much with an impromptu training method. However, I can say that Saber is still testing him. Still. Ruler repeated curiously, why wouldst she do that? She should have seen Master's strengths and weaknesses by now. The brat is constantly learning, Kyubi replied. Saber can't keep up with the kid's rapid progress and quick thinking. While she can still win, Saber is seeing the skill gap between her and the kid dwindle to an extent because of the kid's battle instincts. You could see that when he almost caught Saber off guard, correct? That is true, Archer agreed. Naruto's progress was far too fast for any trainee could accomplish. Not even talent could even hope to explain the sheer speed of Naruto's increasing skill with a blade in terms of tactics and swordplay. I guess Saber can't properly gauge Master's skill because of the speed. It could be an innate skill. Ruler suggested. Kyubi thought for a moment and inspected the seal. It focused on that tiny speck of foreign chakra inside. It was one of two, and one was fluctuating itself quite abnormally for the duration of the battle between Naruto and Saber. Could it be? Kyubi suspected the answer, but conclusive evidence was nigh impossible with only a fluctuating foreign chakra as evidence for an answer. Outside in the real world, Sakura walked side by side with Naruto as she and the others walked to Ichiraku Ramen. While she looked happy on the outside, she felt morbid on the inside. The secret that was revealed inside the Hokage's office was something she didn't expect from the resident prankster of Konoha. Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Kitsune, the same beast that destroyed almost half the village 13 years ago on October 10th. Then it clicked. That was Naruto's birthday. The more Sakura thought about it, the more she became baffled at how much she didn't know Naruto. She didn't know how hard Naruto had it as a child. She didn't know how Naruto mustered up a smile every day. She didn't know how he could live without parents, and she surely didn't know how Naruto felt being alone for the first few years of life. While she knew his likes and dislikes, she didn't know his true feelings, his mentality. It surely explained why he wanted to be Hokage in the first place, to be recognized rather than ignored as a monster. Admittedly, her mother had told her to stay away from Naruto. She didn't call Naruto a monster or anything, just a problem child. And like any child should, she followed her mother's orders. Sakura was ashamed of her actions. She decided she'd redeem herself by becoming a better teammate. So Naruto, when did you get into using swords? Tenten turned, walking in reverse to look at him and ask the blonde Jinchuriki, "You were all for taijutsu rather than kenjutsu if I remember correctly." Naruto chuckled nervously, his pace slowing just slightly to be barely noticeable. Ino jumped into the conversation as well, tackling the boy by his back. "Yeah. Since when did you take interest in swords?" Hinata nodded shyly, wanting to know how her crush had taken an interest in a less desirable aspect of a shinobi compared to taijutsu or ninjutsu. "I don't know, I just wanted to learn a way to get stronger. Saber-sensei is giving me that chance." Saber presented herself into the conversation. "I found Naruto here punching and kicking a tree in various ways and just leaving bruises on his body. He lacked finesse, so I decided to teach him how to use a sword." She patted Naruto's back to strengthen the lie she presented to the girls. Kakashi noted that it was quite a believable lie, and he might have fallen for it had he not known the truth. Ino smiled. "Well, look how lucky you are, Naruto. You got yourself a teacher out of pity." Naruto frowned and pointed his tongue at the platinum blonde Kunoichi, snickering, "Oh, lighten up, fishcake. It didn't hurt, did it?" The boy in question grumbled as the group reached the ramen stand. As Naruto entered, he yelled, "Chuki Jiji. A bowl for everyone. On me." The stand owner heard his voice and went on to create the orders quickly. The man was glad his favorite customer was back, and with friends too. Chuki mentally cheered because it was more money in his pocket and a full stomach for his customers. A win-win situation in his book. "Coming right up, Naruto." From a distance, Jiraiya saw Naruto's face of glee, and he couldn't help but feel disheartened by giving the boy bad news. Leaving the village and his friends after waking up 3 days of leaving a month-long coma would devastate the boy. There was still time. He has until tomorrow to leave. Plenty of time to create a proper farewell party, sorta kinda. Jiraiya disappeared into the crowd to meet his disciples' friends to tell them about his plans for a farewell. Several hours later, Naruto was back in Training Ground 7, meditating in front of the river the area has. Saber had told him to meditate for a while because she had a test for him to take. What the test is about, Naruto was extremely curious to find out. So he followed Saber's order to meditate. He sat cross-legged, his hands intertwined by his stomach, and closed his eyes to focus and clear his mind. It worked, for the first half a minute. Naruto couldn't stand waiting. A dynamic individual like himself can't hope to ever meditate properly for an indefinite amount of time, and it doesn't help that he's far too curious and excited to keep himself composed. He tried calming his mind again, and it successfully ceased his incessant jittering. He focused on the flow of his chakra. He felt it flow throughout his body in a constant and rapid flow. It flowed to his limbs, to his head, and even to his heart. However, there were more subtle places where he felt his chakra flow. Around his arms and back, he could feel his chakra siphoning off from what seemed to be underdeveloped chakra pathways. He tried pushing chakra to these underdeveloped pathways and strained under the stress of forcibly opening a pathway for those strange anomalies within his pathways. And as soon as he almost succeeded in forging a pathway for the incomplete chakra pathways, Saber cut his concentration off. "Master," she called out to Naruto, "I've prepared your test. Follow me, please." Naruto stood up and followed his servant to a small forest clearing by the river. In the middle of the clearing was a beautiful ornamented sword. Gleaming silver steel shone alabaster white under the moon's rays. The blue and gold design on the blade and its cross hilt gave the true impression of royalty. "What is that sword?" Naruto asked Saber as he stared at the beautifully crafted blade set in stone. "That is Caliburn, Master," Saber responded, "my first sword and the sword that started my legend." Naruto noticed the sad tone in her calm voice, but he chose to not pursue that conversation and chose to focus on the sword. "I want you to pull it out of the stone." "Huh? Pull it?" Naruto turned to look at his teacher with a disbelieving look. "Really? I waited to pull a sword from a stone." "Master, what do you think a sword is?" Saber asked seriously. "Huh? Just pull Caliburn from the stone." Without any hesitation, Naruto pulled at Caliburn's hilt. It didn't budge one tiny bit, not a millimeter off from its position. Naruto pulled again, with greater force. He still couldn't move Caliburn from its rocky sheath. "Why? Why won't it budge?" "The sword doesn't see you as capable of being king," Saber answered bluntly. "King? A Hokage in more relative terms," Saber explained properly. "It doesn't think you deserve the title of a leader, not with your mindset at least." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, truthfully curious about his mindset is at the moment. "It means that you are not ready to make sacrifices for the greater good. A leader has to make sacrifices that benefit his people. You not wanting to kill Sasuke is a good reason for that. He is a traitor to your village, yet you pester on about convincing him to come back to a village that will punish him for his actions. But I can tell my side of the story and they'd have to believe that he'd change." Naruto vainly reasoned with the slightly angered Saber. "He's a shinobi our village prides in." "Fool." Saber's authoritative voice boomed across the training ground. "You can't expect a person to change just from one fight. It's gradual. The kind of scenario you are saying is but a fool's dream. A sword is not just some fancy decoration swordsmen have on their persons. It's a tool of death. You cannot handle Caliburn for you are not yet ready to take a life. A sword is meant to end a life, and Caliburn sees that you are far too restrained to kill even in a profession that specializes in killing. But, and to add on from your statement, he is a shinobi your village prides in." "Really, Master? They pride themselves on a traitor. What are you telling me? That this village is a village of traitors? What blasphemy are you talking about?" Saber ranted angrily at her master, who kept taking a step back from her booming voice. "You need to see reality, Master. You cannot expect a crime to be punished with a slap of the wrist. Especially not a traitor. No. I can't do that." Naruto answered, desperately denying the task to kill Sasuke if necessary. "I just can't do that." "Why not?" Saber roared. "What other reason could validate you to not kill a traitor?" "Because Sasuke is a friend. And as a friend, I won't kill him for such a reason like that. And besides, you don't know Sasuke like I do." "Oh. And what do I not know about Sasuke?" Saber asked, purposefully egging her master into a corner. "What is so redeeming about your revenge-obsessed friend, who impaled his left hand into your heart, and left the village for power?" Naruto wordlessly muttered underneath his breath. Saber leaned forward, trying to hear her master's answer. Sasuke acknowledged me. That's why I don't want to kill him. He saw that even in my lackluster skills as a shinobi, that I was a person that he could go toe-to-toe with. He was the first person my age to see me as a person and not some piece of crap on the ground. So sorry if I don't want to kill a person that saw me as a person. Archer could feel the conflict within Naruto's heart shake the very foundations of his ideals. The fact that his master will have to accept the fact that Sasuke might die by his master's hands in the future just silenced Archer as he listened to the conversation along with the other servants. Ruler, Lancer, and the rest except for Berserker were just like Archer, and felt the pain Naruto experienced. Berserker was moved despite his master's hesitance to cut down a traitor, his master's friend. Such powerful one-sided loyalty to a friend that nearly killed him deserves some kind of twisted praise at least. Naruto truly had the heart of a knight even if he isn't fit for a crown right now. I can't do that, Saber. I can't. Naruto cried as tears burst forth. I won't kill Sasuke, I won't do it. Naruto ran from the clearing and headed to an unknown destination. What he did know was that the burden of a sword was indeed heavy, and that he was not prepared to wield one until he could accept reality. In another place, Sasuke stood in a golden theater filled with red roses and red banners. Various floors could be seen where many spectators could watch a play of some sort unfold. He held in his hands a wooden sword that he repeatedly swung methodically to train his muscles. On his left shoulder, a red marking of a fireball surrounded in lightning glowed through his blue shirt. Master, are you ready for your next spar? A feminine voice asked from behind. With a deep breath, Sasuke turned to the owner of the voice. Yes, Saber. I'm ready. Chapter 4.5, Chance. Sasuke lay on his bed. It had been a month since that fight between Naruto and him. He'd reached Orochimaru's hideout and trained with the Sannin almost immediately. He'd been learning the way of the sword through the use of a chokuto, a straight, single-edged blade. He'd been adamant in learning kenjutsu in order to trump his older brother when the showdown would come. Today was a successful day of training to him, and he would prepare for the next session tomorrow. He closed his eyes and would not expect a scene all too familiar with him. The Uchiha compound, his home, his empty and lifeless home filled his vision. Why of all places did he have to think about this nightmarish place? The place where he lost his innocence, the place where vengeance took root in his mind, the place where he felt no love for his older brother, the place where everything he loved died. Why did he see this place again? Sasuke was panicking, reliving the memories that the illusory technique Tsukuyomi implanted in his head. The lives Itachi took that day seared into Sasuke's brain to torture him every sleeping moment of his life. Yet it somehow went away months ago. Sasuke didn't mind. He was done with those nightmares constantly plaguing his mind. So why did it come back? Frustrated and angered by this, Sasuke stomped the same path he used to get to his home, and as he walked the empty streets of the compound, he felt the shrill screams of dying Uchiha clan members being pierced by Itachi's sword. The young Uchiha cradled his head from the pain of hearing those voices echoing in his head. It went on for a while as he walked, and when it stopped, he felt a presence behind him. Quickly, he turned around to see an electric post seemingly holding the full moon. There was no one there. The raven-haired boy turned around, following the path to his home once more. Meanwhile at the electric post was the floating old sage looking down on the boy with contempt for what he has done to himself. The sage sighed. Indra, his eldest son, had his incarnation within the boy walking away. The Uchiha always bore Indra's incarnation, and they always had the biggest clash between the incarnations of Asura, his youngest son, who incarnated themselves to the Senju clan. It is a long and unrivaled conflict that has transpired multiple generations. Indra, the one born with the sage's powers, was the stronger one out of the two. Asura, the one not born with the sage's talents or gifts and ultimately the weakest between him and his brother, had been his successor. Asura followed the teaching his father had about connecting with others due to being weak at the start. Indra didn't see the need in the help of others and was secluded, and in turn ignored the purpose of Ninshu, to connect with others with to deepen bonds, understanding, and so forth. As the sage looked at Indra's incarnation, he saw how corrupted his line had become. Stooping so low as to actually use a cursed mark from an equally cursed and corrupted fool made the sage look at him in disdain. Though the boy cannot be blamed for most of the fault. The boy's elder brother was confusing and not blunt. The sage relived Sasuke's horrific memory and saw fault in Ataki's way of making Sasuke fight for the village and revive the clan in a better stature. Had he said that from the beginning, Sasuke would not have become a power-hungry maggot crawling to any source capable of giving him power. Even Madara had a line he'd never cross, to seek corrupted power he could use. The sage had enough. After seeing the Uzumaki, Asura's incarnation, he needed to end his age-old conflict between brothers now. Hashirama and Madara's battle and the battles generations before them had made the sage angry. As a father, he must stop this madness, or else it will create another bloody conflict. Subtly. Either he changes through the interactions of his servant or he dies by Naruto's blade. He will not interfere any more than giving him the mark of a master. Sasuke Uchiha, I will give you the chance to redeem yourself. Naruto Uzumaki is naive, and he'll give you all the chances you need, but in the end, even the most kind-hearted individuals must learn to enact a cruel action they don't want to do. But will you have learned to go to the right path by then? The sage said these words aloud because he can't be heard. Sasuke stood before the doors of his home. Only now did he notice how pristine the compound was compared to the way it was during the massacre. Something was strange about it all, and it gave a very foreboding feeling. He opened the door and went to the room that his parents died in. Right in front of his feet was a note. If you wish to gain a power stronger than your own, open the door, read the words written behind this letter, and drop a bit of your blood after. Be warned, if you hesitate, the powers bestowed upon you will be wiped away like nothing. Sasuke scoffed at the empty threat, and opened the door without hesitation. Without any warning, Sasuke saw the familiar scene of his parents, and Itachi just behind them in the shadows. What's more, it looked almost exactly the same, perspective-wise. It clocked to look at himself, and saw himself as an academy student again. Sasuke panicked. He was fully immersed in this illusion, this nightmare, this horrific event that had no right, no place to invade in his mind. The sage chuckled lightly. He didn't expect the boy to be that foolish, but there are exceptions. He waited to see if the boy would back out from this event. Though with the way he acts, he did not doubt Sasuke could handle the stress of reliving the event once more. Sasuke struggled. The memories of that day resurfaced and surged like a tsunami, slamming into his face full force. He took the brunt of the memory overload and the traumatic experience with it. He cradled his head once more to ease the pain he felt, yet the visions, the death won't stop. Just when Itachi was about to swing his sword against his parents did Sasuke finally snap. No. Stop it. Sasuke yelled as he charged at Sasuke with Chokuto in hand. He swung the sword with all his might and passed through him and his parents. His chokuto, however, did not pass something. It clanked when it met his sword. With his vision clearing up, he saw a magnificent, red long sword stabbed into the ground. Sasuke stepped back a bit, and wondered what was special about this sword. Was this the power the letter had talked about? The Uchiha took notice of the letter again and flipped it over. The words were like a chant of some sort. Sounded strange, but shinobi say the name of their attacks all the time, so this makes a bit of sense. He recited the words. Let silver and steel be the essence. Let stone and the Archduke of Contracts be the foundation. Let red be the color I pay tribute to. Let rise a wall against the wind that shall fall. Let the four cardinal gates close. Let the three-forked road from the crown reaching unto the kingdom rotate. Let it be filled. Again, 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 again. Let it be filled fivefold for every turn, simply breaking asunder with every filling. Let my will create thy body and thy sword create my fate. If thou dost accede to this will and reason, answer me. I hereby swear. I shall be a being worthy of your power. I shall be the one to control thy power. Thou clad with the great Trinity. Come forth from the circle of restraint. Guardian of the heavenly scales. Sasuke pierced the skin inside his left palm and dropped a bit of blood. The area surrounding the sword glowed red in a circular pattern. He noticed a glow emanating on his left shoulder too. Something was happening, but what is it? A summoning perhaps? He didn't have to wait for an answer because the glowing intensified so much that it blinded his eyes momentarily. When the glowing stopped, he saw a blonde woman in red clothing and golden, flamboyant armor wielding the sword before him. In more detail, she wore a golden crown on her head and a giant, red ribbon held together her bun behind her head. Red cloth covered her neck and right arm, and her skirt of the same color flared like a rose, which opened up to show her legs covered by strips of leather topped by gold trims. The hip armors were fabulously crafted to show the gaudy sense of style and show her status as nobility of some sort. Going up, her abdomen was covered in the same leather, yet her bust wasn't. Instead, gold armor in the shape of brass covered them. Black stockings covered her legs, and golden greaves added protection for the woman. Her delicate hands were covered in leather gloves accented by gold yet again. Sasuke was beginning to think this woman was some stingy noble because of all the gold on her. She had that aura of superiority on her too to add to that noble look she giving off. The woman hummed as she inspected her surroundings. What a depressing place. Tell me, boy, are you my master? Her gaze calculated Sasuke, who at the moment was confused. Master. He was extremely confused. Why was he being called master of all things? Then again, the way the woman was posing, she knew how to hold that sword. Is this what the note meant about gaining power? He had doubts, but he'd put them to the test. An Uchiha only deserves the best after all. If I say yes, then what would you offer me, servant? Sasuke asked haughtily, you think you can give something worthwhile, something good? His voice raised and turned into more of a mocking tone rather than a questioning one. I need power to kill someone, can you give me the power I need? The woman scoffed, HMPH. You must be kidding if you don't think I can't give you the power you need. Master, I am Saber, a master of the sword. If I can't make a swordmaster out of you, then I don't know what will. Sasuke grinned, A swordmaster, just perfect for what he's learning right now. Well then, sensei, Sasuke joked in mocking fashion, teach me your ways. The sage looked at the boy with contempt. He would wait by the judgment of Asura's incarnation. If Sasuke dies not changing, then he is truly a lost cause. If he does manage to change, then all is well, and the rivalry between his sons shall hopefully cease.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like this video if you want some more what if video. Comment 3 hearts for more what if.